And I'm sorry, I'm the worst. And she's a former science teacher and said she's been to our club before, so it's nice to have you back. We're delighted. And everybody else looks like, shall I say it, old regulars?
Just old.
Oh, thank you. So let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, glad to have everybody. We have a couple of little brief announcements. I want to congratulate Lisa. Where is she? In the fancy dress, and she's hit 250 followers on Instagram. Yay! And I don't think we had very many to start before she started posting things, so that's really good, helping our publicity efforts. Following that with some sad news, Mike Woodward, who is a gem photographer and lapidarist, collector. I heard from his wife, and he died a year ago with throat cancer. And she's just kind of starting to let people know. And she called and said that she had some lapidary equipment to sell. I put her in touch with Charles Walker, who's our speaker, and helps us with our lapidary equipment. But we'll also probably try and help her with the estate. And she'll, when it said she wanted to make some donations to the club. So that's very sad news. And it kind of leads me to let y'all know a little bit about a project that we're working on for October, and it's called We Can Help Jewelry Roadshow, because we're getting so many calls from people who are saying, our parents have passed away or our spouse has passed away, and we have all these materials that we need to dispose of one way, and we want to honor their memory and whatnot. And so we're putting together this event that will not require us to haul boxes of rocks and stand out in the sun. It's going to be at Laguna Hills Community Center, and we're calling it We Can Help Jewelry Roadshow. And more details will come up as we get going, but I think it's going to be a real fun event. People can bring their jewelry items to be appraised, but they can also meet trust attorneys and people who help you declutter your house, downsize, estate auction, all those kind of things that people are looking for help with. And we're going to try something new, get out of our familiar gem and mineral show and try something else and see if it might be of service to our community. So that's coming up. The first weekend in July, the Culver City Fiesta of Gems will be held. And I don't know if y'all look on Facebook or on their web page, but they have a really nice program and a lot of cool classes. So if you feel like driving up to Culver City, it's about an hour away. They have some cool classes that you can sign up for free. Admission and parking is free. And of course, they're going to have a bunch of vendors as well. And then a Searchers member is having a sale in Anaheim on Sunday, this coming Sunday, June 23rd. It's going to be at Victoria's house. I'll post that on our Facebook page, and we're invited to attend if we'd like. She's lots of slabs and cabs and equipment and all the usual, all the good stuff that people have collected over the years, and now what do they do with it? So that's going to be in Anaheim on Sunday. And Robert Liu, our speaker, we've had twice here, and of course his son Patrick spoke to us as well, from Ornament Magazine, is speaking this Saturday, 10:30 at the Bowers Museum with the Bead Society. So if you would like to, and it's going to be on Egyptian jewelry. It just, I've already posted it on our Facebook page, but it looks like it's going to be pretty cool. So I'm going to be there. You are too?
Sure, of course.
So that leads me to introduce our speaker tonight.
Can I make one quick announcement?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Hi. So everyone probably have a little issue parking, just so you know, we're in the full swing of summer right now. So please, keep that in mind when you're headed down to the meetings. And I know summer is the time when we have lighter attendance because people take vacations, attend, of course, if you can, but if not, please feel free, and please do share the information with anyone that you know that might be interested. The meetings are free to attend for anyone, so we we would just, we love it when people, come, new people come. So do share and do come if you can this summer.
That's right, we do tend to have, and I failed to mention that our speaker next month, July, will be Tammy McQuaid, and she's gonna talk about crystals and the healing power and the different properties of crystals. She did a Zoom meeting for us during COVID, and she was just great. I won't be here, and I'll lead the meeting, and Liz is gonna introduce Tammy because they're friends, and that was how we got to know her. But she's really does a good job. And hopefully we can figure out how to work this. Find out what kind of PowerPoint she needs, and Terry will help out. So I'd like to introduce my partner and sweetie, Ron Hallam, who is a geologist. He's studied at San Diego State University. For 25 years, he's been with the geology firm Nino and Moore. And his specialty is landslides, and so he's going to talk about something that we all hear about on a regular basis. Landslides are a specialty. I took lots of pictures on our trip to Yellowstone and of landslides, and you'll see some of those. And Ron, thank you very much for doing this. A light off.
Yeah, can everybody see?
Does that help?
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as Ellen said, yeah, this is probably a combination of, landslides and Ellen and Ron's vacation pictures. So, eating a taco in front of Old Faithful. Yeah, I'm going to just jump through these and just talk a little bit extemporaneously. Some people might call it rambling. But about stuff I've been working on, just sort of general about landslides in general, some pretty pictures of big landslides that are pretty famous, and then concentrate on what I've been working on recently is the big landslide in Rancho Palos Verdes, Portuguese Bend, and it's been in the news a lot recently because it's moving a lot. So, I wanted to mention Marjorie's lovely graphic in there. It was, I wanted to put it in here, because then I could say, well, from here on out, it's all downhill. So the first several, I'm just going to, some famous landslides, we've either been to or looked at. This was, and I put this in because this is such a freaking gorgeous picture. I love this. It killed 43 people. Yeah, this was a few years ago. Actually, Ellen and I went up. There it is.
Here we go.
See, we went up like a year or so ago and tried to get it. And you can see the scarp is still quite prominent there, but they're working on a new memorial. So just, there's a landslide.
That's called a scarf, where
The back is the back scarp. Yeah, there may be several scarps in between, but that's the back scarp, the one in the furthest back. We'll get a little terminology going here. La Conchita, up the coast between Ventura and Santa Barbara. It slid twice, one in 95 and one in 2005. 95 didn't kill anybody, the one in 2005 killed 10 people.
Was it because we built up so much more since, or that just people were like maybe watching it and thinking everything?
It's maybe a little bit of both. What always amazes me is if you look at this whole picture, this is the only part. This is my cat. My cat toys. Yeah, it's not showing it. Anyway, this part is the only part that really failed in 2005. But this entire thing is an ancient landslide. Why do you build a town right at the bottom of that? So.
How ancient?
That one probably goes back at least 10, 15,000 years. The whole main, those little pieces of it have been inhabiting.
Yeah, they had all kinds of space to build a town, didn't they?
Yeah, well, it seemed like a nice place. I mean, it's very beautiful. This is one of Ellen's vacation pictures. If you go up to Grand Teton National Park and you drive along the front, and you're looking at the outlook at Grand Teton itself, if you turn around 180 degrees, this is what you'll see. There's a large landslide in the mountains about 50 miles east of the road that goes by the Grand Tetons. This failed in 1925. The slide itself didn't kill anybody, but it formed a dam, backed up a river. The dam failed 2 years later. It washed out and killed 5, 6 people in the town of Kelly below that. So we took that picture. We got up underneath it. I'd been there like 40 years ago because I was a young buck. I was working in geothermal testing up in that area, and went up to this, and it was really cool. And these darn trees have grown up in the meantime. So you can't see the slide anymore. It seems terribly unreasonable, but it's actually quite cool. One of these slides that was material slid down, went up the other side of the hill, and then came back. A lot of this stuff acts when it's rock. This is solid rock. But once it gets activated and going, it acts almost like a fluid because it's generating a lot of air movement. So it's flowing. And either better example of that, we went over another Ellen's pictures. This is in Montana. This is about an hour north of West Yellowstone. And there was a large earthquake in 1959 that not only tilted Hebgen Lake and made it all flow back, but caused this huge landslide. There were a lot of people camping at the base. They are obviously discombobulated, and 28 people were killed. They had to lift people out by helicopter. They have a really nice visitor center there. This is actually quite a neat place. You have to know where it is and drive to it. It's not all the way to anywhere, but Marjorie, did you?
I did. So, I was gonna ask. So, you said people were like camping or whatever, and that's why they were, that's how they became dead.
Yeah.
So, wasn't it raining? I mean, those
No,
landslides only
no,
happen.
in this case, it was not. I mean, usually landslides, there's a lot of rain and water. This is one case where there was no rain. It was this massive earthquake that set it off.
Earthquake.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of the earthquake and like the stuff sliding down that changed the bed of the.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, the lake itself, it's an interesting site. The lake itself was offset by a fault scar, the actual earthquake, and it sloshed. I don't know if they know for sure if that impact by itself impacted the slide, like the sign. This was Ellen's favorite sign, little
Night of terror.
Night of Terror. But it did back up this lake. It's called Earthquake Lake for some interesting reason. But it's mostly because they think of just the motion of the earthquake itself set off. It gets complicated. There was a series of dolomite dikes they were serving as a buttress to this whole hillside, which is not soft rock. It's all amphibolite schist. But the earthquake either offset or broke that dolomite dike, and the whole thing came down and again washed up the other side.
Is every landslide associated with an earthquake?
No, absolutely not. They can be.
Because you say so many people are killed, well, you would think they would know that maybe
There are
some.
a lot of different reasons. A lot of it has to do with excess rainfall, and we'll see that.
right.
Water is always a big case. Actually, except this one, there wasn't that much excess water in this slide, and it's hard rock. It's amphibolite schist. It's nice, and it's dolomite. I mean, that's not rocks you normally associate with a landslide. So this is kind of hard to show, but it shows, I mean, this is a big dolomite boulder, probably as big as this room.
Easily
Yeah.
twice as tall.
That got pushed from one side all the way to the other side of the canyon.
Wow.
So that's me walking along the side of, decided to put me in that scale.
Oh,
So
right.
you're tiny compared to that.
And he's, yeah.
He's tall.
Casa
Oh,
Romanica.
yeah.
I wanted to give this talk for a while, but I was looking for some information about some technical papers and stuff about you know, the Casa Monica slide, which is what, like a couple hundred feet that way? That way. But I hadn't seen anything yet, so I put it off, and then, well, here's just a couple of pictures of Casa Monica. I'm guessing it had a similar cause, just a lot of these others we'll be talking about, especially Palos Verdes, because the rocks throughout Southern California are pretty similar and have similar properties that lead to landsliding.
And so, Ron, real quick, I just wondered, you know, they got the trains going through there and they vibrate. You know,
Yeah, that doesn't help. Yeah, motion doesn't help. One assumes they
Jiggle.
yeah, they included that in the calculations, because I know they put it in a temporary tieback wall, with a tieback wall is temporary, steel and retaining wall.
Truss the bridges, things
Post
like that,
yeah.
they will reinforce it with.
Yeah, and it's just, I'm assuming it's kind of a temporary fix, because they're not holding on the hillside, they're just sort of catching the debris as it falls down the hill.
That was just to clear the railroad tracks.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't recognize those hands, those are mine. That was a slide I worked on in Oceanside in 2005. We were going downhole. That's a lot of how we analyze landslides is if it's not too deep, not too wet, drill a large diameter hole, and you can go with a geologist in a cage and log it from there.
Have you done that?
That's him.
That's you?
That's
Those are his hands in that cage.
Yeah. Did you tell? Here, it's a. Does it look the same?
That's sort of scary, huh?
Yeah, I've done a few hundred of those.
Anything, like any seismic activity when you were down in a hole?
No, but
Okay.
oddly enough, you don't feel it down hole. When the earth shakes, it's the stuff on top that feels it. It's like, you know, a wobble. You're
Okay.
inside, you don't feel it nearly the same.
Oh.
I've been in a couple of landslides that were moving while I was in there.
No.
Get back.
Yeah.
But that's really the most dangerous thing is having bad air in the hole. People have died from bad air in the hole, but not really from collapsing that I know of. This was just, yes, that's where that road. When this happened, they were calling it a sinkhole, and then they said California was sliding into the ocean. It was actually sliding to the east, so if anything, it was sliding into the Colorado River. But yeah, we worked on this. This was a huge lawsuit. But it's kind of cool.
But so it wasn't a sinkhole, it was just a land, what was it?
Well, it was material moving. We'll
Okay.
see some cross sections, and it just, the material moved, so the material, the area behind it dropped. So their initial view was, oh my gosh, this street is sinking, it's a sinkhole. But as you see the whole thing, you can see the rounded back scarp, again, that's a back scarp. And it just kind of moved and flowed downhill. So it took out about, well, they didn't take out, but it ended up demolishing 3 or 4 homes at the bottom.
Have they repaired this?
Yeah. I think they replaced the homes or they made it into a little park, but also that road, it's a pretty major road in San Diego, so they repaired that relatively quickly.
Wow, that's crazy.
Just a couple, because this is a fun one. Sunken City at Point Furman. This started moving in the 20s. A number of streets, trolley car line, and houses, and it started moving and moved in several phases. As you can see people out there, people crawl out there all the time, they put up fences. And one time the city of LA wanted to make it a park, and they were actually hiring people to figure out how to do that. And I and a couple of other people went out and said, you know, whatever you do, this is really crumbly, you've got all this concrete, somebody's gonna die. So they decided not to proceed with the park plan. Can everybody hear me? Am I jammering? Again, more Point Furman. It's really cool because we're building foundations and trolley tracks, they're all twisted and turned. They graffiti the whole thing, so very cool. This was at what kind of was called the Ocean Trails development on Rancho Palos Verdes. Right as they were about to open the golf course the 18th green decided to slide into the ocean. Which is what we're looking at there.
In 99.
Very quickly, they got it fixed. Bankers, or the builders went bankrupt. Donald Trump swooped in, bought it up for pennies on the dollar, and then proceeded to sue the Rancho Palos Verdes Teachers Union, the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, the geotechnical consultant, and the owner of the geotechnical consultant company. They were all settled out of court. We don't know what happened, but but now it's called the Donald Trump Los Angeles Trump International Golf Course. So it's beautiful driving on the coast. Again, there's a back scarp, and actually in this case you have a fore scarp because it's pulled apart.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's a
The
back
back
scarp.
scarf is the stuff on the left?
Stuff on the left is the back scarp.
Okay.
And then it was moving toward the ocean, so this material in front is the fore scarp. And in the middle is called the graben, down graben. You remember, anybody took geology? I was fresh in geology. This is cool. I found this while I was looking on this. It's an old cross section. Another company did, but I had some input into this back in the day. This is actually a really accurate cross section of these slides, in that these kind of slides are called translational. They move along a fixed surface. There's almost no rotation along these slides. They tend to break loose and slide as a piece. So I decided to throw that in. Because a lot of the cross sections you see are pretty more simplistic and don't really show the complexity, and this one does. Well, this is a relatively small slide compared to Portuguese pen.
So is this done like you go out and like look at a slide and you're like, oh, I'm gonna make this like chart kind of graphy thing
Yeah.
to show like what's up?
Well, that's one reason. The other reason is engineers, soils engineers will take those cross sections. Based on that, they'll make calculations. What's the resisting force? What's the driving force pushing the slide downhill? What's the resisting force, the friction? And then there's a number of calculations, usually done by computers these days, thank God, that will say, okay, you need to add this much weight or this much stability to hold this slide, keep it from moving down the hill. So that's the other reason for all those calculations are based on cross sections. They'll do like 10 or 12 cross sections, do calculations based on all of them, average them out, something like that. They come up with a factor of safety. Factor of safety for sliding. Factor of safety is resisting forces versus pushing forces. If I design a bridge to hold up a 300-pound person and I design it exactly for 300 pounds, that's a factor of safety of 1:1. If I say, maybe I better design it for a 600-pound man. Really, the only person I think is going to be crossing it is a 300-pound man, but I'm going to design it for a 600-pound man. It's a factor of safety 2:1. So that's.
That's
So,
the guy has a
yes, so don't have that. Yes. They were repairing the slide. Very complicated repair. A number of places said this is based on repair and what they went through. This is the most expensive golf course ever built. Just a little bit, this is from a USGS paper, different types of landslides. I hope you're taking notes, or we'll be able to test. Most of what we're going to be seeing, or what we've already seen, are what's called up in the upper corner translational and block line. Almost no rotation. Back east, when you have uniform, that OSO slide from Washington, those are uniform. Those tend to have a lot of rotation to them. Most of our slides don't do that. They basically slide along a bedding plane.
And that's which one is the one you're talking like?
In the middle.
Can you hear, you know which
These two up here.
We could do the table just like a little bit this way.
Then I can actually point at it.
Yeah, you can actually see the screen.
Well, Robert
too.
can't see.
Oh, shoot. There we go.
Well, he
Is that
can't,
okay?
Marjorie's.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that okay?
These two, block slide and translation. Another important, very important slide in Southern California debris flows. I'm not talking about those because that's another whole subject, another whole lecture. But you know, we had a bunch of those in Santa Barbara, Montecito a few years ago after the wildfires. And those can be very, very dangerous, but it's a different type of mechanism, so.
I have a question.
Please.
What happened to Teton Pass? That?
What did you
Yes,
say? You said debris?
debris flow.
What does that mean, when something burns and then it rains?
Then the rain comes on it and it basically picks up all that loose dirt, trees, rocks,
That was
cars.
Santa Barbara.
Yeah, that's Santa Barbara, that's Montecito. Teton Pass, from what I can see from the air photos, was an earth embankment that crossed a valley and apparently was on soft soil, and that fill embankment got saturated, or the base got saturated and slid or moved. It wasn't a natural slope, like the rock didn't fail. It was failing in an embankment fill, and probably because the material underneath was soft. From what I've heard, things are very preliminary still on that.
And it was soft because of rain? It was saturated?
No, because we actually hadn't had that much rain up there, but the subsurface
Snow
was
melting,
soft.
you know.
Snow melting, probably, but from what I've heard and what they said, the subsurface was soft and saturated, and the fill in the embankment failed.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
sure. Yeah, we were up there when that happened, so I got to find out the newspapers. So this is Rancho Santa Fe, Portuguese Bend. This was February, the front of the LA Times, Sunday Times. Above the fold, so it must be important. So this is Portuguese, Palos Verdes Peninsula. Let's see, San Pedro Bay, Iowa battleship is right there. Some other points, Point Furman, that Point Furman landslide is right there. That recent landslide in Rolling Hills Ranch that took out about 10 homes, that was about a year ago, a little less than a year. That was right there. And our area, the Trump landslide, or that one we were just looking at, was right here. And so this is the area of Portuguese Bend. Or closer up.
Isn't all this stuff like conglomerate rock and then?
No, it's siltstone, claystone, sandstone.
Well, that's soft. So if you put pressure on top of it, is that gonna force it?
Not necessarily, if it's, distributed correctly. I'm gonna talk about it, we'll
Okay.
talk about the mechanism. So this is the Portuguese Bend vicinity. A few places I'm gonna talk about these 2 points, they're real kind of cool. This is Inspiration Point and Portuguese Point. This is the Trump Golf Course here, and that's the slide, what's left of the slide down there.
Chapel.
This is called the Seaview neighborhood, and there's an intersection of Dauntless Avenue and Exultant Avenue. We look at that. Vandalit, Graben, have pictures of that, and Wayfarers Chapel. Everybody's heard of Wayfarers Chapel. If you haven't, you're about to learn. This is just a view from the top. Everything in this picture is a landslide. This is one of the points, Inspiration Point. Show this, see how the beds are dipping? Remember that land, or that cross section from the Trump landslide? Very similar bedding. This is all Monterey Formation. The Altamira Shale network of the Monterey Formation. That'll be on the test. A lot of shale, you'll find shale, claystone, bentonite beds. And I've got some touchy-feely exhibits here. You could play with bentonite and actually shear, probably, perhaps landslide clay. And to show that people have known this is kind of landslide area since well before this, but this was a geologic map in 1946 showing this whole area as ancient landslide. So before anybody went out there and started developing things, people knew this was a landslide. There are a series of landslides. it's very typical landslide looking country. There's a story, a couple of stories. A lot of this land was owned by Japanese farmers before the war, before it got taken away from them, and then several of them came back. But they had stories of they would go out and put fence lines through their fields, and they'd come back like a week later, and the fences would all be, serpentine. So it was moving back then. The latest theories or latest ideas are this is at least 700,000 years old. This has been moving for that long. So, geologic map of this is that whole area that was kind of shown on that other map. And at this time in 2007, these were the active slides, what we're moving. Flying Triangle won't talk too much about it. It's moving a little bit, but not nearly as much as the rest of this. So it's a series of slides and sub-slides. The main portion is Portuguese Bend slide. This is called the Klondike Canyon slide, Beach Club landslide, smaller slide, and the Abalone Cove landslide. And note, they've got the slide mapped right through this residential neighborhood. So everybody knew back then that was a landslide, and still they built this neighborhood over here. So
They built it and then it happened, or they?
they
built
knew
it
there was a landslide there, and they built it, and figured, well, it's stable, it's not moving. At least that was, they were told, somebody told them that.
Wow.
And nobody ever, I think at the time it was under the jurisdiction of the county of LA. The city of Rancho Palos Verdes wasn't incorporated until '73, I think. But this is just a simple cross section through part of the Abalone Cove, just to show that it's actually not just one big piece, it's sliding on several layers. And these are, that's on the order of 100 feet, 200 feet, 250 feet. So it's really, really, it's large, it's thick, and it's all moving. For a long time, Abalone Cove was actually relatively stable. It's moving just a few inches a year. It's now moving with the rest of Portuguese Bend. Wayfarers Chapel. A lot of people have been there, been to a wedding, or I had never been there until Ella took me up there one time. I think she took this picture and a couple of others. Gorgeous place. It was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright Jr. 51 it was completed. Interestingly enough, in 1995 they tore down part of it because it was already moving. There was already land movement in the area. So it wasn't just in the last few years. It's been moving for a long time. And my favorite is in December 2003, it was made a National Historic Landmark, and 2 months later, it was closed. And now they are disassembling it. They're going to try to build it someplace else on stable land. Quick, that's another Ellen picture. And this was the new visitor center they built in 2001. This was on the far corner of the lot. So at the gift shop, restrooms, offices were there. And this is March 2024, the glass over the entry, it's already shattered. I was there, May 31st. Actually, I was there yesterday too. But they're disassembling and taking it apart. The chapel itself didn't seem like it had that much damage, but it wouldn't take a whole lot because it was all glass, metal, and redwood. So just a little bit and the glass would shatter. So.
No. Oh, sure is.
Apart. They've got conservators. I was hearing them talk about taking this piece out versus that piece out. They weren't just knocking it down. They're planning on rebuilding it somewhere. Just shoving a bunch of the sidewalk and the parking. It's the visitor center. This is behind the visitor center. And it's just, this whole hill is bulldozing the building, and there's the hole under the foundation, which is pulling apart. you've never seen a red card or, do not enter, so, red card.
So can that land, like, ever be used for, like, what happens now too?
That, they're gonna let that land go. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the mitigation that is just now starting. If they can slow things down, nobody is saying they're gonna be able to stop it. It's not gonna be able to stop. They're hoping to slow it down back to maybe pre 2 years ago. If they can do that, then they might be able to do something there, but they're looking for a stable piece of land to rebuild the chapel on. If you remember several slides ago, I mentioned Vanderlip Drive. This is one of the oldest areas of Rancho Palos Verdes. The original guys who designed it built a couple of big mansions right up on top, and this is right next to that road. And you can tell how this is, again, is a graben. It's pulling apart, and this middle piece is dropping. And that's at least 100 feet across the middle. And those, let's see, a forescarp and a backscarp. And those, at that time in March, that was about 5 feet tall. A compatriot of mine was out there, she went out there the other day. Those scarps are now at least 10 feet tall.
In 2 months?
In 2 months. Yeah, they pull apart and it's dropping. It's not these roads, it's just this center part that's dropping and you see the cracks.
Is the house still there?
The house is there, it's leaning.
Yeah.
We've put some I-beams up against it. She had some pictures of it, I didn't want to include 10,000 pictures, but you know, trying to hold the house upright because it's leaning. It's a house that was built in the teens or something, so it's.
But this was all level at some point?
Yeah, this was all like.
When I was in high school, kids used to go up there
Oh, yeah.
at night because they said it was haunted.
Oh, well, it is now. That's
It's a bad demons.
Yeah. If you remember, I talked about the Seaview neighborhood. This is the intersection of Dauntless and Exultant Street. It's just a normal tract house. Several $1 million, because some of these houses do have fabulous views. They look over the top and there's Catalina. It's beautiful. They put in this pipe because it's where the second half of last year into this year, it kept moving and it kept breaking water lines. So water kept dumping in, you know, the people would have their water cut off. And I'm thinking a lot of water got into the back of the slide. This is the back of the landslide, right here. I think a lot of water got in and helped made it settle. You're gonna see some pictures of that. So they put water lines with flexible joints on either side of the break. So that was in February, that was in May.
Oh, my goodness.
That's the same corner?
That's the same one. And that was yesterday.
The people, that was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
Oh.
The people need that land.
People do still live. This house is interesting. We think somebody knew there was a slide because apparently this house is sitting on caissons, deep foundations.
Yeah.
This guy's
Screwed.
screwed. I'm looking for the word, but left mind.
Thank you for saying that.
Cut to the chase.
So are these exterior water lines like a short-term kind of
Yeah.
thing? Yeah, and
Yeah,
then everyone just
everything is
gets
short
moved
term.
out?
Everything is short term now. It's well, what do we do? You know, what's for right now? What can we do? So going the other direction and shooting sort of back this way. This was Dauntless. This is the corner I was looking at right there where that water line was. So this is looking back at this house in July. This house had already been abandoned. You can sort of see it's kind of bowing.
Yeah.
But that's, and actually, this has already been repaired. This has been repaired a half dozen times. But July 7th, it looks pretty good. In September, ooh, there's a big crack. Let's see, look at this guy's driveway too. Keep an eye on that. And this is January.
Oh.
And that's May.
Or do the driveway?
note the driveway,
Oh, wow.
and that was yesterday.
Oh,
Driveway.
Oh, my gosh.
And notice the house.
Oh,
Next couple of pictures are in the house next to that. In end of August, no, let's see. Well, we'll come to it, but this next couple of pictures is this black house next to this house. This house had already been abandoned. This is the backyard of that black house. And that's November, yeah, there's a crack around the pool.
Yeah.
And that's in May. Bigger crack. There's at least 3 shears cutting through this guy's backyard. This was the side yard of that black house. The day before this, they had just finished remodeling this house. I forget how much they spent on it. It was a lot. It was really nice. They went on vacation on August 31st, a water line broke, and fire department came out, noticed the damage, turned the water off, and red tagged the house. So when people came back, that's what they had. So this was right after, the day after they red tagged it, the morning they red tagged it. So that little walkway there, that's in February, that's in May. It's cutting right through, you see the space, I mean, you can, literally crawl under the house. I wouldn't do it, but,
So is there like, I mean, does homeowners insurance cover something like this, or is this
Absolutely
like,
not.
what happens here?
the word you've heard before,
Okay.
yeah, that's, because, insurance almost never covers land movement anymore, unless you spend a lot of money and buy specific. Back in the 80s, there were a lot of claims, right when I started working at Geotech. We were working in a lot of neighborhoods that were suffering some sort of soil damage, expansive soils or something. How am I doing for time?
8.
Okay.
We started late.
Okay.
Is there problems when they bring fill dirt into these big, huge tracts of houses?
There can be, I mean, fill by itself is an issue as long as it's compacted or if it's placed. Anyway, they were having a lot of issues, and insurance companies just uniformly stopped covering soil damage, soil movement, so.
Kind of like they are with fire now.
Yeah,
Are these people just gonna give this land back to Mother Nature and forget about it?
I have no idea. I don't know what they're doing. They can't build a house. There aren't a lot of options that I can see. This is that neighborhood. These are those 2 houses.
Crazy they were allowed to.
And I've been mapping just cracks and through this neighborhood for the past 8 months. And that's just the slide. This is the active slide. The Klondike Canyon sort of comes through here. And because it's terraced, it drops down. It doesn't come down smoothly. It kind of comes down, drops, comes down, drops, comes down, drops. But that's basically the edge of the active landslide right there.
How old are those houses?
I think they were mostly built in the 80s, so they're 40, 50 years old. I think they're nice houses, they're tract houses, but are very nice. Especially that one that they totally redid. Just a real quick reminder, this is the map of the slide. This is what they considered the active slide. This is like the latest map.
Do the house if they knew the neighbor's house next door or something.
This was the mapped active slide that we saw in on a geologic map. This is now considered the active slide, the green. It's almost a third bigger. And it cuts right through that CV neighborhood. These are vectors, don't worry about that. It just indicates which way they're moving and rates. And you won't be tested on that, don't worry.
Is it growing? Or
Yeah,
is it?
yeah, it's expanding back. As it moves down, it's expanding back up the hill. This is a cool figure. This is rate of inches in a week. Where those houses were breaking is over here. It's among the slowest. And that's at a rate of, I think it's 2 to 3 inches per week. The center of Portuguese Bend is moving between 9 and 12 inches a week. That's the red. That's current, that's what's happening right now.
So what happens when the interior is moving faster than like?
It becomes like plates, different pieces move. You know, it's like almost like plate tectonics, you know, one piece will move and another will rotate. And that's where the damage is happening. If your house is on an edge, then that's where it's gonna crash. There's houses up in Courtesy Bend, it's sort of in the middle of one of those subslides. You know, it's any damage at all, it's just riding happily downhill. Yeah.
Is it gonna keep moving slowly, or could it just go slump like that one time?
Parts of it could move quickly, that's another little issue, but it still is moving at rates of inches a week. It's not catastrophically moving, but that is always a worry. A piece of it could take off and go.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of issues with that. There's this massive sewer line that runs along the coast. That's had to be above ground for the last 30 years for sewer. If that breaks, then all the people, that area of RPV, the serve RPV, can't flush their toilets because their sewer will dump right out here. So.
Why can developers build in an area where a geological survey
They're not
has been
supposed
done,
to, back
and
in
then
the
get
day.
away with it, especially when people's lives are at stake, you know? There's
It's
no communication between,
There didn't used to be. I mean, anymore, you definitely have to, you know, have a geologist. There was a lawsuit in '61 on this, on which was now based most of the newer laws that insist that you have a geotechnical, geologic report done before you build something. All the grading laws came in after that, a lot of them based on this you know, movement. This is a cool slide. This is rate of movement in inches per week. This starts at 2017, 2019, 2020. It's about a third of an inch per week, which is, you know, this is only 3 spots. This is 3 stake locations. There's about 40 of them out there. They just picked these 3 just to illustrate. December of 2022, it starts moving, and then
oh my gosh.
say October of 23, somewhere in there, it really starts shooting. And now we're looking at between 5 and 6 inches per week. So there's these 3 per month, per year. That's a lot. It's moving a lot. Now, how are we going to fix this? How are they planning on fixing it? I don't know if they can fix it, but the plan is, on smaller slides, you can build essentially a wall, retaining wall, shear pins to try to hold it up. That's what they did to the Trump slide, that little one, that was 17 acres. This whole area is probably close to 500 acres, so you're not going to be able to stop it. You're going to try to reduce the groundwater. So at all these locations, and again, this is all moved, this is an old map, you're going to drill parallel hydro-augers up into and beneath the slide and try to suck water out of it, bring the water level down, and maybe that will slow it down. Hopefully it will slow it down. That's the plan.
Is this like on shelf area? I guess like part of California is like really thin on the coast.
Yeah, it's
Is
not
that,
so much
that's not a factor?
There are beach terraces that work their way down the hill. Now, a lot of that's been disturbed by the slide, but yeah, you come up out of the ocean, there is kind of an initial terrace, which they're gonna be drilling from. This is a quick cross section. Again, this is all gonna change. The red is the slide, blue is groundwater. They're gonna drill underneath to try to suck water out. One of the issues, I think, is water is seeping from the hills, it's getting underneath the slide and basically floating the slide. Artesian pressure pushing it up, which is speeding it. The rate of movement, I'm having some doubts. Are they going to be able to drill anything that crosses the slide? Because it's moving so fast, they drill through the slide, try to put a pipe in, and it gets cut off within a week. So we'll see. This was yesterday. They're drilling some initial exploratory holes out there. first couple went down almost, when the first one, 200 feet, the second one they're doing today, they're trying to go 300 feet, trying to go find slide plane and groundwater. Where is that?
Will you be going down that hole in a cage?
No, that holds out, yeah, that deep and that wet, we don't do large diameter. So this is what's called a sonic drilling rig. It's a different drilling method, but it basically takes a big core, and there's geologists, it creates all this core, and they're logging. That's over 300 feet of core. And what's going on? Have they found anything? We just started. So that's what we know as of today. An hour from now, I don't know, but as of now, that's what I know. Any other questions?
So this seems to be mainly in California. Now, is that just because this is where you work, or is this where it's the most prevalent? Are there other areas in the country that are prone to slides? And what percentage of California is slipping away?
There are landslides everywhere. Actually, there are more landslides in the east and the Midwest than there are here. They tend to be smaller. One big reason is they get more rain. We don't, you think, oh my gosh, we've got so much rain this year, but we're still relatively dry compared to Kentucky or Virginia or someplace like that. Their slide mechanisms tend not to be like this. They tend to be, rock slide / avalanche or soil movement, like a rotational slide that will slide out of slope. That chart that had all the different types of slides. They tend to have different kinds of slides than we do. This is one we're showing like this. It's very typical for northern Baja, San Diego, Orange, LA, Ventura, Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara is a little different, but even Riverside. Just the geology of our area tends to promote slides like this. And they're not irregular. I mean, there'll be a slide on this hill and everything else is fine. Well, it's like here. I mean, that slide is impacting that one area. The rest of the houses in the development are peachy keen. You're bad luck to have been right on that backscarp.
At one time, wasn't all the Palisades level with our ocean, and many million years ago, it moved up like this? And that Palisade is actually an ocean bottom that has been...
Yeah, well, all this is ocean bottom.
And so that's why it probably is so fragile.
There's different, first of all, yes, they're all marine deposits.
Yeah.
Monterey Formation is Middle Miocene, so 20 million years old, 25 million years old. So yeah, they're all sea deposits, and then they were uplifted. Then there's been a series of uplifts and downlifts, especially during the ice ages. So the terrace that RPD is on has apparently, where sea level, it hasn't gone up so much, the sea level has gone up, gone down, gone up, gone down. And during the high times, it's tend to have more sliding. When sea level goes down, it tends to slow down. It's been very cyclic. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Ron, did you want to just have people come up?
Oh, yeah.
Take a look at your samples, or do you want to pass them out? They're kind of muddy and messy.
Yeah, this one isn't so much. This is bentonite. This is in place bentonite. Bentonite forms when volcanic ash is distributed over an ocean and it settles out. And if the ash reacts with the seawater and creates bentonite clay.
So, Ron, this bentonite clay, this is not what you want under your house, is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Because I'm curious of like, how deep do they drill to get
You pass it in the box so that we don't have.
Well, they were drilled 300 feet.
I kept thinking it's like quite a bit instead of Oh, this is
It's not a core slide surface. I think there's.
here you go.
You bring your cores in.
That stuff has been modified under pressure. So you can see how.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Here's paper towels. If you wanna- Things get dirty.
Whole area off and put yours up there.
Well, while the samples go around, Ron's gonna, anybody else have any more questions for Ron? He'll come around and tell you. Warren, do you wanna, Warren's gonna do the raffles, if anybody has any last minute raffle purchases you wanna make.
Probably not a heat slide.
If not, go right ahead.
Seems like this.
Okay, so we start out with the blue tickets.